Sean P. Diddy Combs. That's the subject right now.
Now the Sean Diddy Combs investigation. New surveillance video shows Combs being taken into custody in a Manhattan hotel last week.
Everyone was waiting for what Stephen A. Smith would have to see about the Diddy indictment, and he has finally let everyone know what is really going down.
So we all knew this was coming. But when you hear racketeering conspiracy, when you hear sex trafficking by force, when you hear that were used to keep them obedient and compliant, when you hear about the transportation to engage in prostitution, male sex workers, and all of this other stuff, he's in a world of trouble.
Stephen's not pulling any punches here. He's a well-connected man, and he knows exactly what this means for anyone even remotely involved in the conspiracy and sex trafficking with Diddy. Many people are now speculating that Stephen A. Smith seems to be hinting at Jay-Z being up next due to his close association with Diddy.
I got news for you. It's gotten very, very scary. If it were just him, it would be sad. It would be very unfortunate. But I use the word scary because I get the impression, to put it kindly, that his life ain't the only life that's going to be affected. That they ain't after him just to get him.
Stephen also hinted at the possibility that there could be a lot of people bringing Diddy's shocking crimes to light now, such as Suge Knight.
Remember what Suge Knight said? Y'all remember that? When Suge Knight said he was in a world of trouble? Because Suge Knight said, listen, he knows a lot. And so you're looking at a potential situation where it could arguably mirror that of Jeffrey Epstein. Remember him?
But then the question arises, how will Diddy protect himself? The obvious choice is that he will reveal incriminating information on several people who used to be close to him. And one of the names that have historically been associated with Diddy is that of Jay-Z. Indeed, Jaguar Wright believed that it was Jay-Z who wanted Diddy put away in the first place because Diddy simply had too much dirt on him.
Why does it all come to a head now? Why now? Why?
Because he's the acceptable monster at this time, like R. Kelly was the last time I sat on this couch.
So who's next?
Y'all don't see the lineup?
Yeah, we see the lineup. I'm just waiting to see who's next.
Jay-Z is setting Diddy up.
And Diddy has most certainly been set up. The things he has been charged with are nothing short of monstrous.
The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs threatened and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. Let me say a little bit more about the charges. The indictment alleges that Combs exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways. As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs.
Now Diddy has a lot of dirt on everyone, so people are speculating that the powers that be may not allow him to make it out of prison and into the courtroom, or even make a plea deal for that matter. It seems like Diddy is now at high risk of
And we have the latest on Sean Diddy Combs' investigation as the hip-hop star fights racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and prostitution charges. Well, investigators now working to determine who his co-conspirators were and whether they should be charged as well. TMZ is also reporting Diddy was placed on suicide watch at the detention center that he's being held at in New York. But his lawyer is saying he's not suicidal. This is just routine for high-profile inmates.
But is that really the truth? Would Diddy really take his own life? Gene Deal thinks he could.
But you knowing Diddy personally, do you think it's possible he might take his life?
It takes a certain individual to prepare himself to do a lot of years in jail. From the lifestyle that he had, I'm not saying that he can't. I just don't see him able to do time behind bars. Maybe if he'd be in a camp type situation, that's a possibility. But based on the lifestyle and what he's done and what he's accomplished, if he had to go behind those bars for a lot of years, I think that he may commit suicide. He'd do an Epstein.
But the thing is, even Epstein didn't technically do an Epstein. His own family believes he was murdered.
I knew my brother wasn't a flight risk, and he's my brother. I didn't care. And then bail was denied, which is why he was in jail. And then they were going to appeal the decision for bail. And Jeffrey was putting up a pretty big bail, and they asked me for the appeal if I would guarantee his bail. And I agreed, in essence, doubling it. So there was a chance he might have gotten bail. And that hearing was scheduled in, I think, for the 12th, in a couple of days. So then I'm thinking, if he was going to kill himself, wouldn't he wait to after the bail hearing? Because if he got bail, he'd be living in his house with an ankle monitor and armed guards and cameras, so he wouldn't disappear anywhere. Not that I thought he would try. And then if bail was denied again, then it would be a more compelling argument for him to kill himself if he wanted to. But a few days before the bail hearing makes no sense at all.
So do you have a theory as to what happened here? Because, there's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of conspiracy theories, there's a lot of innuendo. Do you have a theory as to what happened here?
Yes, my theory is that this was a targeted assassination. I believe somebody was planted on that tier as an inmate because the Justice Department regularly plants people in prisons either for, to put snitches in to get information from prisoners or to put undercover agents in to build a backstory. So the Justice Department can't plant people in the prison. So I believe, and I had been told early in the game that cell doors were left unlocked that night on the tier. I don't know how many or whose, but I've been trying to find out what other prisoners were on the tier that night. There was only 11 or 12 prisoners on that tier. So it's not like we're looking through thousands of people. And I would like to know who they were, when did they get there? Because if somebody was on the tier for 6 months already, he obviously was not a plant. And then after the death, a lot of prisoners were transferred off of that ward. So I'd like to find out who was on that tier, they got there, and where are they now? Do they actually exist?
So I guess the counter argument to that would be is if someone really wanted to kill Jeffrey Epstein, right? They had to assume he was about to talk and give information about some, high profile people. Otherwise, what would be the incentive to kill him?
And that now seems to be happening in the Diddy case for a number of reasons. While Usher hasn't been accused of any crimes, his friendship with Diddy has sparked online rumors. Content creator Matt Wallace posted on X, Usher just deleted all of his tweets. The Diddy tapes are about to send hundreds of celebrities to prison. Usher seemed to quickly address the gossip without directly commenting on the situation. He posted on X, explaining that his account had been hacked. In a 2016 interview with Howard Stern, Usher reflected on living with Diddy for a year when he was 13. I got a chance to see some things, Usher said. I went there to see the lifestyle, and I saw it. I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. However, one person who has been almost suspiciously silent about the whole Diddy situation since last year is Jay-Z. Is he silent because he cares about his good friend? Or is he silent because he's got an even bigger rep sheet? We'll let Jaguar Wright answer that.
Jaguar Wright told us that Jay-Z was worse than Diddy. And we're going to go ahead and deep dive this Jay-Z and Diddy connection to show just how deep this might actually go. The one thing I can't stand is seeing these photos of Jay-Z and Diddy with Aaliyah. It makes me sick to my stomach. We know that Diddy and Jay-Z have both been friends with R. Kelly for years, and Jay-Z continued to make albums with R. Kelly after all the information came out with him and Aaliyah. And I'd say this is because Jay-Z was pretty comfortable with the fact that he knew he also wanted Aaliyah, and honestly, so did Diddy. And Aaliyah's death has never sat right with me. There are so many sketchy things around her death that just don't make sense. The fact that Aaliyah was given a substance and knocked unconscious and then was carried onto this plane that she didn't want to get on because she thought that something was wrong with it that led to her death is just crazy. There's also even more disturbing information about Aaliyah's pilot of that plane, and they said that he had just joined the program 2 days prior before the flight, and he wasn't even supposed to be the pilot on that flight.
Aaliyah was sitting in a taxi as her team and the flight crew argued nearby about whether or not to take off, and she complained of having a headache. Now, reportedly, a baggage handler nearby said that someone from her entourage gave her a pill. She took the pill, and that right after she fell into a very deep sleep. So deep, in fact, that she was carried onto the airplane still asleep and may not have even been aware that she was on the airplane.
That's right. What they're talking about here is Aaliyah's unfortunate death. Only, was it really unfortunate? There are several signs that Aaliyah was killed, and that it was no accident at all.
Now, we should say we don't know what that pill was. It could have been aspirin. Maybe she was just very tired from a long video shoot. And the baggage handler did say that she took it willingly. But it does reveal some new information about those final moments.
After the crash, investigators determined the small plane was carrying about 700 pounds over its limit. And this is important. The center of gravity was too far back in the aircraft.
The pilot did not want to make this trip. And he reportedly argued with Aaliyah's team because he thought that it was unsafe. So he did make those calculations, and he did decide that it was unsafe. However, after protracted negotiation, they went through with that flight. Now, we did also learn some new things about this pilot. According to autopsy results, he had both alcohol and cocaine system.
The pilot
did.
Whoa.
He was not the authorized pilot for that plane, and he had just joined that company a few days prior to that flight. So he was very new with that company.
Then there was the time Jay-Z also seemingly tried to take Blue Cantrell's life after he cheated on Beyonce with her.
Another crazy instance that I think about is Jay-Z and Blue Cantrell, and Diddy was obviously in this photo as well, but he is cut out, but he's right there next to Kim Porter. Now, it was rumored that Jay-Z and Blue Cantrell had an affair going on while he was dating Beyonce. Blue Cantrell actually did an interview with Wendy Williams where she talked about sleeping with Jay-Z, and then shortly after that interview released, Blue Cantrell was hospitalized after ranting that she was poisoned on the streets. Blue Cantrell went running through the streets ranting about people trying to unalive her until police took her into custody for a physical evaluation. Blue Cantrell was running around the streets screaming that somebody was trying to unalive her by giving her poisonous gas.
Jay-Z. Oh my God! I heard you talking about the horse flu. Oh no! Beyonce. Did she really have him locked down? I think so. I think they're in love. I think they're in love. It's politics speaking. No, I really do think they're in love. I have a big crush on him, though. I'll tell you that much. I still have a crush on no. No, I didn't. No, I'm really selective about it. What? Really. I really like him, though. And I don't care. I don't care who he's dating. I always had a crush on him, though. If he came in right now and we were all not here. What? I'm just saying. You're in New York. Yeah, okay. And what if you ran into him and everything was right, would you make that play? I wouldn't turn it down.
But perhaps the most striking and horrifying allegation to come out about Jay-Z is how he seemingly dated and slept with an underage Foxy Brown.
Another time that I think about is when Jay-Z was allegedly dating an underage Foxy Brown.
I love Jay, and I'm not. I want to say that to him. I just spoke to Jay this morning. How is the sex? Is he hung like a horse? Oh my God, that's what Artie says. He's unbelievable, is he? Jay's. Let me tell you something. No one can do what Jay and I do. Like for real. It's a trainer in this industry that I have genuine love for. Like real, diehard love for. And it's Jay. For real. You're strong. That was her first. Art! Art, you think she and Javon? You don't have to acknowledge it, Foxy. Just Art. Remember, I'm a lot younger. Exactly. And so is Beyonce. He likes him younger.
10-year-old girl did it, you know, which is odd, but you know, like I say, we grew up fast. We just needed a person who fit, who can take that position, that, you know, girl versus guy call and response, because that's what it is. It's just a fun girl versus guy type of thing.
He was like, okay, why don't we just talk about real life? And I was like, give me 20 minutes.
Been there since I was 15 years old, so it was like really getting a divorce. And I guess sometimes people forget you started very young.
I started at 15,
I mean,
for real, real age.
So it's very obvious that Jay-Z isn't the icon that everyone thought him to be. But let's break it down to brass tacks here. How possible is it that Diddy could turn in people like Jay-Z for his own sake?
There are a lot of people in Hollywood who are probably worried about which Diddy parties they were at and what was going on. That's not to say that they were necessarily even involved in any of the things that are alleged by the U.S. Attorney's Office. But if you're at that party and it turns out that that's when he set up one of these freak-off sex parties, or that it was going on in another room and you didn't know about it, there's a good chance that you're going to be called by the U.S. Attorney's Office. And certainly if you were involved, you would get a call, because they're going to want to know everything you want to know and may even want you to be a witness. I just think, we're just starting to scratch the surface of what this case, this case is going to touch and involve. And the feds have said that this remains an open investigation. There could be more charges for Diddy. There could be more charges for other people involved. And usually the way this works is once they find out other people are involved or were witnesses, they bring them in and they sort of lean on them. And it's sort of like, you're going to cooperate with us, or there's a possibility that you could face charges. So this is going to be a slow developing a case here, because we're just getting started. And I don't see how this trial begins anytime before next year. These parties had a lot of individuals. In fact, the U.S. Attorney's Office says that the parties would sometimes go on for days. So there are a lot of individuals involved, and they say this has been going on for more than 10 years, and yet we didn't hear about that. So that means that all the people that were involved, according to the feds, that he managed to keep them all quiet, that nobody would speak about it. And that does sort of speak to the kind of power he wielded and the fear that people had of him. We're also talking about the fact that the beating of Cassie, which was captured on the hotel surveillance video, that was 6 years ago. And
as alleged, when Combs
nobody knew about it. Nobody heard about it. Think about all the people that were at the hotel who may have known about it, people who saw the surveillance video and never spoke about it. And like you said, we're in an era where when things like that happen, people speak out about it. So the fact that no one did, and that it only took Cassie's lawsuit before any of this started coming out, it does kind of speak to the power that he wielded, and that the fact that nobody wanted to cross him.
One shocking thing that Jay-Z could seemingly be charged with is his trafficking of Rihanna. Yep, you heard that right. Word on the street is Diddy and Jay-Z were behind Rihanna's rise to the top in all the wrong ways.
And then we have Jay-Z and Rihanna, where Jaguar Wright alleged that Rihanna was here from Barbados to Jay-Z. The fact that this record deal signing took place at 3 a.m. has never made sense to me, and the fact that Jay-Z looked at Rihanna and said, you have two choices. You can either sign this record deal and walk out the door, or I can throw you out the window and we're on the 42nd floor. I literally couldn't imagine being only 15 years old, flying to a whole different country by yourself in the middle of the night to meet with these music executives, and then they say some crazy like that.
An unnamed federal source told the New York Post that if you went to and took part in his sex parties, you were being recorded from every possible angle, including angles you wouldn't have known about.
Yeah, that's crazy. But the feds, they also revealed that they got photos and videos of Diddy freak-offs.
When they did that raid, you understand, what they did was, prior to the raid, they reviewed that civil lawsuit. And that civil lawsuit told, Cassie's civil lawsuit, Was Lil Rod had already did it. Lil Rod hadn't did his yet, did he? Did Lil Rod do his lawsuit before the raid or after the raid?
Oh, before.
Yeah, so what they did was they reviewed both of those civil lawsuits and found that there was some criminal activity in those lawsuits. We spoke that on Art of Dialogue. We spoke about that on your show. I said if they really wanted him, all they had to do was review those civil lawsuits. And once they find the criminal activity in those, they could bring him in. Now, did the Federal Bureau of Investigation in Miami do it? No, they didn't. Did California do it? No, they did not. The Southern District of New York, they took it upon themselves and put on that raid and everything based on the information they found in Cassie lawsuit and the information they found in Lil Rod lawsuit. But all this is bigger than Diddy.